No! 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 No!
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. There are often times where you see a trailer or a preview and you outright know that whatever is coming out is about to suck epic donkey balls. It is rare to be wrong in the year of our Lord 2026. Not to say that we should judge a book by its cover all the time, more that we should listen to someone or something when they're outright saying how bad they're going to be. There are many such cases, but the funniest one so far is The Bride, which made 10% of its budget back during its opening weekend. It's made a bit more since, but it is an objective failure.
That actually is pretty funny.
Oh, you're going to take the classic horror story and turn it into an action-based slop story surrounding the Bride of Frankenstein? I know this isn't the topic of the video, but hot damn, is that ridiculous or what? In what way did you think that this was going to work in your favor? Of course, it was going to fail both critically and commercially. An action horror story that didn't really seem like it wanted men to watch it? What exactly was your target audience even supposed to be? Now, if this was a romance where the giant buff Frankenstein's monster loved the bride unconditionally and made her reach completion multiple times in a row, then the female audience would have made this a hit based on the most popular reading material of our time right now.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Now, there are 3 reasons I brought this up. 1, I think it's absolutely hilarious. 2, if I made a video exclusively about the bride, it would die a death, and I can't think of a grand overarching theme about it that wouldn't result into stupid gender war nonsense. And 3, a similar trailer recently dropped for the new Lantern show. To make a long story short, it didn't exactly look promising or good in any conceivable way, which is a shame because it's got my man John Stewart in it, and I've been on my knees since the original Justice League cartoon begging for more adaptations of my favorite Green Lantern, but now it looks like it's going to suck.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
The reason The Bride and Lanterns are alike is because they're adaptations which really don't seem to care about the source material all that much. They are unique ideas which wouldn't be greenlit if they didn't already have established concepts and characters to use as puppets for the play to enact. Now, I could be wrong here. Maybe Lanterns will be high quality. Maybe there will be deep lessons and character development and references which are respectful to the source material. But it doesn't start out great when the Green Lanterns aren't even in green at all. This dull brown looks like something from a grainy 2010s shooter rather than a colorful look about law and order across the galaxy. And if something quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, you shouldn't be surprised when people assume that they're not going to be served chicken.
Really makes you think.
From just a glance, it looks embarrassed by the idea of a magical green ring from space being able to make anything the user can think of as long as they are creative and have enough willpower to be chosen. And I'm sorry, being embarrassed by the comic books is the first sign that an adaptation is probably going to fail. I think Thor and Loki's popularity have proven that playing the wackiness of the comics straight as though it's normal in this universe can lead to some great results. Okay, Thor the Dark World exists, but let's not act like Thor and Loki aren't the only characters who have been active draws for the MCU from the start up until now with no breaks in between the various stages. And boy, does this one hurt, because Green Lantern has gotten the short end of the stick in terms of adaptations since the OG Justice cartoon. None of the versions were even added to the Snyderverse. There seems to be an odd embarrassment about magic rings for some reason. If only there was a famous and beloved franchise built around magical rings. Unfortunately, I can't seem to think of anything like that, one of which is focused on absurd concepts like halflings, dwarves, elves, and orcs. Nope, nothing like that at all.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
I understand not wanting to show the powers in the trailer and give too much away, but boy, instead of a sprawling intergalactic thriller, it sure does look like we're going to get a small town mystery like the original season of Reacher, except with all the possible color drained out and the fact that everyone's treating one of the main characters like he's a washed up loser. Dear sweet baby Jesus. Both the sheriff and John tore Hal a new asshole, and he got no retribution for it. Instead, he just had to stand there and take it. At least have him say a one-liner back so that we can know that Hal is at least witty, instead of making him take a beating the whole damn time.
He's already dead.
I understand what they're trying to do, starting from the ground up, having Hal train John to be a Green Lantern, keeping the case so low profile, which makes sense narratively and sense from a show perspective. They don't want to start out with galaxy-bending consequences. A new recruit shouldn't be thrown to the wolves. Of course, this made the car crash scene over the cliff very stupid. Also, John could have easily stopped a car without an active driver by simply turning the wheel slightly and letting the car slow down naturally, because, and I might need to point this out to some people, a car needs something to press down on the gas pedal to speed up or even to continue at its current pace. It is the basics of physics.
Stupid is stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
So yeah, this was basically a worthless trailer that did nothing to give me any sort of confidence in lanterns whatsoever, because there's a problem with starting out with a small town murder. This already exists in a world where there's a famous Green Lantern and metahumans are common. From a theming concept, this is pointless, and from a training concept, this is dumb, because John should be with Hal on Oa or something, or I don't know, on another planet that doesn't have an active Green Lantern. But someone wanted to do a small town western instead of what was right for these characters. You know, something that happens all the time with adaptations.
You either tell me right now you're dumb as and you suck, or you did it on purpose. And he was like, I'm dumb as
Now, I could be wrong. I will outright admit that I was incorrect if in the fall this comes out and it's not a giant pile of turds. But they're the ones advertising this as a Green Lantern show without any green in it, in a concept that doesn't really work. The Men in Black wouldn't simply investigate a random murder in New York. They'd need evidence that it involves aliens. Some things are in fact below someone's pay grade. The feds aren't going to investigate a random mugging that has nothing to do with them. That's the role of the police that are always patrolling those streets. What are we doing here? Why aren't there any aliens? Why are we making Hal look terrible from every conceivable direction? And this is coming from someone who is a bigger fan of John Stewart than Hal Gordon. But I do not need them tearing down Hal to make the man, the myth, the legend, John Stewart better. The concept of the old veteran mentoring the young gun is a tale as old as time. Except this looks more like John is already stronger, smarter, and faster than Hal. And they're going to make Hal incompetent, washed out, and stupid. Which is just amazing. I love this. Why can't Green Lantern as a concept catch a break? Why does Guy Gardner, of all characters, get an amazing adaptation but no one else does?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
The entire time, this reminded me of Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. Washed up old man, doesn't really want to train new person but does it anyway. Doesn't teach them anything worthwhile. New person is just naturally better than them with no training. Just raw, natural talent. Old person is bitter about life. They're the cause of all the problems. The need to get out of the way for the new generation. All of their accomplishments and growth mean nothing anymore. This new person is the very best to ever be the best ever, and the old guard simply needs to go away because they suck and you suck for liking them over the new thing.
This is worthless. It's less than worthless, my boy.
This is a trope which showed up in Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, not Doom, I got that wrong in my last video about him, and Toy Story 4. And it just blows my mind because it never works. Every single one of them had to deliberately apologize for their mistakes later by getting on their hands and knees and begging for you to come back for the destined continuations, because we all know that the new characters aren't going to help bring in people. The Indiana Jones game and Toy Story 5 are doing this, and Rise of Skywalker desperately apologized for The Last Jedi, but now it's still a terrible movie, so it didn't matter. Because of course they all apologized. And all of this is coming from a guy who liked The Last Jedi because it's a Star Wars movie for people who hate Star Wars. And I am a genuine Star Wars hater. I don't know what to do with myself when Star Wars is actually good. How am I supposed to enjoy that? But even I can admit that there is no conceivable line of events which would cause Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy, who somehow managed to get Darth Vader to repent, turned into whatever Luke was in The Last Jedi. It doesn't make any sense. Same thing with Indiana Jones and Woody from Toy Story. Why are they acting so differently? Why do they need to be bad to hype up new or returning characters? Why do they need to be giant pathetic losers? Why can't they just be like Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil Requiem?
No notes?
No notes.
No notes!
No notes.
No notes!
No notes. It's perfect.
The new Resident Evil features two playable protagonists, the returning Leon Kennedy and the new Grace Ashcroft. Having gone through outbreaks multiple times, Leon is a veteran who can handle anything that anyone can throw at him. Meanwhile, Grace has a desk job at the FBI and is completely unprepared for what's to come. While they don't interact a whole lot, Leon does his best to support Grace when they do meet up. Both of them get to be great characters. One isn't diminished for the sake of the other. It's simply that Grace doesn't have experience yet.
Of course! Of course!
Leon even gives Grace his best weapon for a time. While I won't spoil anything, he does everything he can to support her and keep her from feeling like he did during his first outing in Resident Evil 2, like a failure. Now, Resident Evil 9 is no Shakespearean play, but the character writing and arcs for these two are incredible, to the point that Grace actually does grow close with Leon as a student and trusted confidant by the end of the game. Both get to be amazing, and neither needed to be sacrificed for the sake of the other.
Oh, it's so obvious. I would have never thought of that.
Imagine if Resident Evil Requiem pulled this trope, where Leon was depicted as old, out of touch, and in the way of the next generation. What is actually a phenomenal experience would become complete and utter garbage. If Leon acted how Luke did in The Last Jedi, we would be questioning how it could have possibly ended up that way. It doesn't make sense. The path doesn't work when you have a beloved character who is already established as being a certain way. You can't just change them how you want them to be. They need to act consistent, or at least have a legitimate reason why they change so drastically. The path needs to make sense.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Now, Lanterns might not be this way. I could be wrong, like I said. The advertising could simply be terrible. Perhaps John is simply being cocky. He thinks he doesn't have anything to learn from Hal, and Hal needs to connect with him and overcome past trauma in order to help his protege become the Green Lantern John is destined to be. If they do this, then the Lantern show will be a lot better than advertised. But if the trailer is accurate, then we'll get another terrible adaptation of Green Lantern, which is absolutely amazing.
It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
Because, of course, the mentor doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to be the very best. He is human too. He can have flaws that he needs to overcome. No one Besides, Leon Kennedy is flawless. The mentor is part of the hero's journey too. In the normal case of the hero's journey, the wise mentor guides the hero to become a better version of themselves and usually perishes along the way. Think Dumbledore, Gandalf, or Obi-Wan. And if you don't know about all of these and haven't been spoiled until now, can I come with you to that rock that you live under when the bombs drop? Okay, before people get on me, yes, Gandalf didn't technically die, only thematically. That's why he could come back as Gandalf the White, but I still think it counts in the hero's journey, just like Dumbledore and Obi-Wan, both of whom made mistakes throughout their journeys. They were far from perfect, but they still had something to teach their students, even if they didn't develop and change before their own demises. Just like an ideal version of the Lantern Show, there are paths to making this idea work, where the student has just as big of an impact on the teacher as vice versa. Simply look at the Karate Kid universe. This is done multiple different times. Daniel-san helps bring Mr. Miyagi out of despair, and Cobra Kai is this exact setup through multiple seasons. Both Johnny and Daniel influence the lives of their students, but develop in their own paths along the way, perfectly mimicking the journey of martial arts. One does not become a master and never learn anything ever again. There's always a way to improve, both as a person and as a martial artist. From personal experience, being questioned by people you're teaching really pushes you to understand what you're teaching, both backwards and forwards. Thus, the journey continues as the next generation builds and improves what came before, taking out the weaknesses which once existed before the new discoveries. Or take a look at the original Last of Us. Joel doesn't really have anything to learn from Ellie about surviving in their world, but as he guides her, she reminds him that surviving isn't simply about staying alive until tomorrow. Connections, hope, and joy are all needed if one is to continue to the next day, and that motivated to save him from a demented doctor who really wanted to kill a little girl and didn't know how vaccines are really made. Yep, just a wholesome story overall, where Joel is clearly the good guy because everyone else is a giant moron. Also, part 2 doesn't exist.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Or you can even look at something like Good Will Hunting. Professor Lambay has many of his preconceptions challenged by Will, but at the same time, Will learns more from Sean about what really matters to him in life and how he should handle his path moving forward. While not as traditional of a mentor-student trope, this remix of the hero's journey does have the mentor change as well. Unlike something like Whiplash, where the exact opposite happens, Terrence does push Andrew to be the best possible jazz drum player as he could be, but at the cost of a satisfying normal life where he could be a well-adjusted human being. They both really fail at life.
I've made a huge mistake.
As you can see, there are plenty of ways for the mentor role to play out, even if the mentor is the main character. But there seems to be an odd trend in some modern storytelling about crabby old mentors who won't get out of the way. And you know what? That's actually understandable. In real life, we've all had terrible bosses who didn't deserve or earn their positions. They were bad at their jobs, didn't know how to do what you did, and actively got in the way of your productivity. Not only that, they would throw you to the wolves every chance they could get.
Well, this sucks.
We can even see this in positions of public power, politics, businesses, and even writing, at least from a journalistic sense. The people at the top have not shifted in a significant amount of time. They have long since been surpassed and are holding onto their spots at the expense of the next generation. It's a boomer phenomenon, and boy, are people sick of it. There are a few exceptions like Gabe Newell, who is the only person in the gaming industry keeping the medium from collapsing. He wins by simply doing nothing every single time. No, I'm not joking. He recently was sued for being too ethical, and thankfully he won.
Look, the point I'm trying to make is nobody is born cool. Except, of course.
There is a real-life trend and phenomena that the old generation isn't really acting as mentors should. The problem doesn't come from using the evil mentor or trickster mentor tropes, it's warping already established characters to fit that role. Because we've all had that one good teacher who was there for you despite everything, and they inspired you and believed in you in a way that pushed you to be better. I had one like that. He was my chemistry teacher, and despite it being my worst subject, sorry, I'm a physics guy, I excelled in his class and learned a lot simply because he cared. He also taught me to always look up by climbing onto my locker and looming over me like Batman. That was a funny day.
Who are you? I'm Batman.
But on the other hand, I've had a teacher so bad when I was a kid that I hated science lessons because she would use every single moment to harass me, if possible. And no, this one wasn't in my head, because she was later fired because too many parents complained about her. So yes, I understand the bad teacher trope, but do we think that Luke Skywalker, Woody, and Indiana Jones, a literal professor, would be in this category? Or Yoda, for that matter? Oh yeah, The Acolyte Season 2 was going to turn Yoda evil by having him cover up Jedi crimes. Thank God that never happened.
If anyone goes asking around about the events of the last few days, what do we say? Never mind all that!
You can do the evil mentor trope, just use it with characters that make sense. Look at one of my favorite games ever, Persona 5, for example. Kamoshida is a former Olympic athlete who earned a gold medal. He should be an excellent coach, motivating people to be their best. But instead, he physically abuses his male students and abuses his female students in different ways. He's so ingrained into that school, and so many people protect him that the only way to take him down is literally to brainwash him into feeling regret for his many, many different crimes and sins.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Or take Oz Cobb from The Penguin. He originally is a good mentor to Victor in terms of helping the younger man understand the crime game and rise up the ranks, but you know from the start that the Penguin is a terrible human being and a manipulator who is only using Victor. And you know that the Penguin will only keep Victor around as long as Victor is useful. It's perfectly done and shows that mentors don't always want what's best for the people that they're instructing.
Oh, I made myself sad.
You could even take an example from a comical movie like Talladega Nights. Ricky Bobby has an objectively terrible father who gave him awful advice when he was a kid, and when they started to reconcile after Reese returns to teach Bobby to overcome his new fear of driving, Reese purposefully throws it away because he knows that he'll mess it up eventually anyway, because he's an awful, bad, terrible, no good person despite helping Bobby this one time. It's played for laughs, but it's a surprisingly real subject because mentors can be stand-ins as parental figures.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Not everyone has the best parents in the world. Boy, is that the understatement of the century. You can't choose your biological parents, but sometimes you can choose who actually influences you, who you listen to, who you follow. Personally, I choose to follow the examples of people like Steve Harvey and Keanu Reeves, people in the entertainment industry who had harsh lives but still thrived to be kind and generous to the people around them. And of course, I had plenty of mentors who at least tried to be fatherly. Most of them failed terribly, but whatever. Sometimes it's nice to know that people care, even if I didn't listen to a word they said sometimes.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Holt acts as a stand-in father figure for basically everyone at some point in the various seasons. It's more obvious with Jake and Amy, but Holt does mentor everyone, and he learns lessons as well. It's never in doubt that he wants what's best for the people he supervises, and that he will stand up for them until his dying breath if he believes that they did the right thing and are being punished for it. The father symbolism isn't subtle or anything, especially considering that Jake repeatedly mentions it, and I think that Amy did once as well at the very least. But does that mean his kids married each other? And does this mean that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is banned in the UK?
Nope, never again.
In Daredevil, it's hinted that Stick became a father figure to Matt when Daredevil was younger because, his dad was already dead, which caused Stick to distance himself. Plus, he was later revealed as irredeemably evil by assassinating children, but he was a father figure nonetheless, just like Sean from Good Will Hunting, Joel from The Last of Us, and maybe even Leon from Resident Evil 9, and no, not the daddy way that the internet took for him, but it's obvious that Grace did become a bit of a daughter figure for him. Plus, there's Sherry, unless the internet is right about who Leon married. Weird stuff, I swear. Ada Wong is right there.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
It can even be played for laughs, like with The Office. Michael Scott is objectively terrible as a manager. He can sell a fur coat to a vegan somehow, but he can't run an office to save his life. Despite this, he desperately tries to act as a father figure to his unwilling employees to cope with the fact that he desperately wants children of his own. It's as sad as it is funny, but he at least tries and cares for the most part, and in a way, he was a father figure to more than a few of them.
First, let's get one thing straight. I'm not crying. I'm just sweating through my eyes.
And just like being a real father, there's a journey to being a mentor. Just because someone is great at a certain skill doesn't mean that they're going to be a good teacher automatically. That's an entirely different ability and skill set. Being a talented and brilliant doctor does not mean that someone can teach it well. House is a great example. Even when House isn't giving lectures, he is in fact teaching everyone who works under him. Getting a chance to pick his brain and gain the prestige which comes from working with him is the only real benefit that comes from working with Gregory House.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
House is no Dr. Cox from Scrubs. While harsh, sarcastic, and a bit demeaning, he is trying to help the residents be better doctors, because people's lives are literally in their hands. People are bleeding out right in front of them, or they're dying of an illness and they need to make a split-second decision. If they can't handle simple insults from him, they're never going to be able to deal with rude, uncompliant, and stupid patients. And let me tell you, my wife is an NP. The stories I could tell you. Oof, a man with an open catheter jumped into the ocean for fun. He almost died from the infection which followed. The medicine and medical shows are never right, but the portrayal of dumb patients, spot on every single time.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
As you can see, there are many different angles to approach a mentor character, whether that person be the main character or a supporting character. There are many different ways that Lanterns could be good. I want it to be good. I'm on my knees praying to dear sweet baby Jesus that it's going to be good, but I would bet that it's going to trip like Flambe once did and knock its own teeth out, because if that's the best the trailer can do, then I'm a tiny bit concerned. Of course, there are exceptions. After all, it was only recently that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms came out, and those original trailers did not give me confidence.
Oh, here we go again.
I keep bringing this show up, but that's because I love it. Sir Duncan is far from a flawless human being. He's in way over his head and is not knowledgeable in politics in the least. There's only one thing that he does understand above all else: how to be a good person who upholds the qualities of an ideal knight. Also, he's a massive tank who can move faster than most of his opponents and needs about 5 men to drag him to the ground, which, helps.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
But he has no experience in the world's politics. Everything he knows is from his now deceased mentor, who was far from perfect. In fact, when Duncan first tries to interact with Egg, he mimics his deceased master by trying to be harsh. But you can tell that's just not him. It's not who he is. Duncan is learning to be a teacher and to be a real knight, dealing with the political world of Westeros. But at the very least, he's a good person who sets a good example for Egg, who functions more as the real main character of the world, even if we're currently following the Hedge Knight instead of Egg.
Well then, see? It says let us go.
It's a matter of interpretation.
Following a mentor character as the protagonist changes the dynamic just a bit. In the original outline of the hero's journey, the mentor borderline drags the hero into the story through the inciting incident which forces them to leave home. They are the ones in the support role, but there is a great weight to their decisions. After all, what they choose to teach, reveal, and maybe even just simply tell the new hero to do shapes the narrative. It's why they're generally seen as one of the most important elements of the hero's journey. Without them, everything falls apart, at least, until the point that they're usually supposed to die.
My fellow Americans, I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
Through a simple shift in point of view, you can see the story and narrative from an entirely different perspective. The mentor is shaping what will happen past the point they're not even around anymore. How well they instruct and guide their students can influence not only the next generation, but even those beyond what they will see. It creates a ripple effect, because if the mentor fails the student, that makes the hero's journey that much more difficult. Just as your bad teachers, bosses, and maybe even parents made your journey far harder than it needed to be.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
I can always use my go-to example of Breaking Bad. While technically a skilled chemist and a person who is good at guiding people in the process of making drugs, Walter is a terrible, terrible mentor. He caused nothing but pain and suffering to Jesse. Not that Jesse was in a good place to begin with before Walter intervened. He probably would have been killed or arrested sooner rather than later, but Walter kept Jesse under his thumb relentlessly over a perverse sense of control. He never once acted to make Jesse's life better. In fact, Jesse didn't have a single mentor who didn't try to manipulate him. Even Mike did that.
Disappointed!
Or look at the Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan doesn't make a single person's life better, not even his own. His family is miserable, his friendships fall apart, and all the people who worked for him or learned from him are ruined. The only one who got any sort of benefit at the very end is him, showing just how bad someone with control over people's lives and money can be. He even became a sort of teacher in the end for sales techniques, continuing the cycle of destruction well past what he could ever see. That guy was just great. I'm glad he exists in real life.
Hate, 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 double hate, loathe entirely.
There's also The Devil Wears Prada, just to bring in a female character for once in this, a mother figure. Miranda is, throughout a doubt, a terrible human being. She will do anything to hold her position at the top, crushing everyone beneath her, even the people she mentored. It's so bad that Andy outright decides to leave the fashion industry because she sees that the absolute best she'll ever get is becoming Miranda, a person who is miserable and makes everyone else's lives miserable as a result.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
We've all had experiences like this, where you realize that the person in charge of you not only doesn't have your best interests at heart, they actively want to keep you down. Maybe not to the degree of the examples I've given, but still, these are good stories, one that speak to many of us. I like them. The problems arise when writers are making characters act completely out of the range of what they would ever be like.
I can explain.
Of course, there could always be the possibility that the mentor is simply wrong about something, not maliciously, not trying to sabotage the student purposely. They are trying to teach and guide, but they are misguided themselves. And the best and latest example that I can think of comes from K-Pop Demon Hunters, because I have to use every conceivable excuse possible in order to talk about this musical movie featuring female characters and issues. I don't care what anyone thinks, it's a masterpiece and I love talking about it.
It's beautiful. I've looked at this for 5 hours now.
In K-Pop Demon Hunters, Rumi's teacher and guardian has instructed her to hide her demon marks from everyone, including her closest friends. She has to bury away all of her feelings and perceived flaws so that the world can never see them. The metaphorical meaning behind the demon marks isn't lost on anyone, and perhaps in another age where people died in their 30s and had no support, maybe this would have been good advice to survive an extra day, but we live in the year of our Lord 2026. Well, 2025 when the film came out. Man, it feels like forever ago at this point. Nothing about the advice was malicious, simply wrong. Celine didn't believe that Mira, Zoe, or anyone in the world would accept Rumi. The only way to overcome what was believed to be a flaw was by cutting it out entirely. This was obviously wrong, hurting Rumi greatly and getting to the point where she couldn't sing anymore. The appeal was to one of tradition, and sometimes this is a good thing. There's a reason why we clean certain things and avoid certain foods and avoid certain activities that are going to get us killed. Those were dangerous. Those traditions make sense, but suppressing your pain and emotions forever obviously is not something that will work, considering that we live 3 times longer than only a few centuries ago.
Well, that's the end of me.
Instead of lashing out at her mentor, Rumi finds a new way and creates a better outcome for her, her friends, and everyone else. They don't need to be flawless and hide every part of themselves. They need to accept each other's quirks, support each other, and help them improve by standing together. That's a good lesson and a good reason to criticize advice from the past. The mentor was wrong, not evil, and man, do I need to go back and watch K-Pop Demon Hunters again because, it's such a good film. I love it so much. Could Luke Skywalker be a failed mentor in this way because he had the wrong knowledge at the wrong time? Yeah, sure. Maybe he doesn't have natural teaching abilities. Maybe he gave bad orders which got people killed during a fight. Maybe he was overwhelmed by an invading force. Maybe he couldn't stop a student from being turned to the dark side. But failing to slaughter an innocent child and being a bitter old man with no hope, that just sucked.
Life sucks, and then you die.
It's the last thing that I want from Lanterns. Like I said, I want Lanterns to be good, but considering the trailer, the lack of green, and the setting that no one really wants from a Green Lantern story, I'm a bit skeptical. The idea of Hal being a jaded veteran who expects the worst from sentient species while using unorthodox methods, and John being the greenhorn who's talented but is held back by a militaristic need to play by the book sounds great. Any idea can work, it's the execution which matters.
Well, hang on, you've just... No, I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
Maybe Hal has to teach John how to think outside the box while dealing with dozens of different cultures from across the galaxy, but John has to remind Hal that Green Lanterns are supposed to be symbols of hope who set good examples for everyone. Neither character has to be perfect, but I'm concerned and worried based off what we've gotten so far. After all, the best adaptation we ever received of Hal was cancelled after a single season due to a shift in leadership in WBD. I swear, those absolute idiots, my corporate nemesis, because they have literal gold that they're sitting on and don't do the obviously right things with any of them. These geniuses didn't know what to do with Cartoon Network cartoons of all things.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
But if Hal is a kicking bag for the other characters and he has no redeeming qualities and is a useless, washed up, pathetic user, then I'm not going to like this. My man, the myth, the legend, John Stewart does not need anyone to be lowered down for him to stand up on his own merits. For the love of God, just make this more like Resident Evil Requiem compared to The Last Jedi. I desperately want James Gunn to not fail, but I'm worried that this might be too much for him to handle.
Can't hold on much longer.
The mentor character is an important factor of the hero's journey. There are plenty of ways that it can go right, but also plenty of ways that it can go horribly, horribly wrong, especially if you're working with already established characters. I hope Lanterns at least matches Superman 2025 in terms of quality. While not perfect, that film at least seemed like it appreciated the concept of comic books and superheroes. Lanterns seems embarrassed by it. It seems like it's self-sabotaging, and that is the last thing I want. I want John Stewart to thrive. A buddy cop and mentorship story sounds amazing. I pray that they won't fail miserably, and if all of my fears are wrong, I will sing as many praises of Lanterns as I do with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
We knew you could do it!
But what do you think? Do you think that Lanterns has any hope? Is it embarrassed of the Green Lantern concept? What do you think of the mentor tropes that I mentioned? What are some versions and examples of mentors that you like from fiction? Any positive stories from your life that you would like to tell? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with everything I have to say, that is perfectly fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion. Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.